Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of The Mandala Effect. So today I would like to welcome a very special guest, Pete Cohen, who has been one of my coaches previously, and he's always been a role model, a massive support to me on my cancer journey, helping me to understand more about health and reassuring me that I had all of the tools and the power within me to beat it. Pete is known as the People's Coach, and he's a renowned public speaker, best-selling author, and was, a long time ago, GMTV's resident life coach before the world even knew what life coaches were. But most importantly, Pete is a wonderful human being with one of the biggest hearts. So thank you for joining me.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Awesome.
I mean, I was just, when you talked about being one of the first life coaches, I suppose in a way I was, but I think I was more one of the first personal trainers in 1991.
1991, that's when I was born.
Well, that's great. You're joking. Oh my God. How old was I in 1991? I was 21. So how old does that make you?
I'm 32.
Wow. That's crazy. I thought you were a lot older than that.
It's the wrinkles, isn't it?
No, it's your wisdom. You're very wise, so I've obviously got to know you a little bit, and I think with the whole Mandela effect, when this whole energetic field that we have, I suppose when you've met enough people in your life, you just see people, you start to see, well, who is this person? And it's not what someone says. I mean, obviously that's nice, but you can just see who people are. And I believe I see who you are, and I see how strong you've been, and you leaned into something so difficult and so challenging, and it was a real honor and a real pleasure to be on that journey with you, because I can't even begin to imagine how frightening that must have been for you.
No, well, it was terrifying. And I remember you were the first person that I called when I was diagnosed, before I even rang my mum, because I knew I needed a pep talk, because I was on your program, wasn't I? And I guess you'd sort of seen me fall apart a little bit as leading up to the diagnosis. And then when I was diagnosed, and I didn't even know I was about to be diagnosed with cancer, but then when I was diagnosed, having the tools, having you and the rest of my 365 in my corner really made me feel like a warrior. And I think that's at the very beginning of that process was a huge support.
Yeah, and I as I look back, I see again what a privilege it was that I was able to be on that journey with you, but also who you've become as a result, and how you've almost outgrown who you were. You've transformed, and what better thing is there in life to be a part of someone's transformation, to watch someone blossom, to watch someone find what they have within them, to do something difficult. I think that's part of what life is.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think it's probably one of the biggest things in life is to transform into the butterflies that we all are deep within. But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you.
Well, that'll probably be, what I'm like. I can't help myself. And if you don't mind, I will probably ask you questions about you. I know it's your podcast. I mean, ask me anything you want.
Okay.
There's no taboos here.
No. Well, first, what I would like to do is ask who Pete Cohen is in your own words, and what your mission is in this lifetime, because you have a pretty big mission and you want the best for everybody. So let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah, it's changed. Recent events have changed everything, just in terms of how I see things, and how I see myself, and the value that I have, and what I want to do with the time that I'm here. But I suppose, in essence, I was just telling you that between 5 to 4 and 5 to 5, I've got a big neon stop sign coming, which is quite bizarre. But my work is really about, now more than ever, stopping. Let's stop and look at where we are. It's all very well talking about where we want to go, But if we don't stop, I think what tends to happen from my own experience, I just keep going around in circles. So when I reflect back of all the work I've done, and it's interesting having you here because obviously you're someone who, once again, I know I was there for you. I was there for you, not just as a coach, I was there just as a friend, like I'm here for you. But I've also been in that capacity as a coach, and I'd be interested to hear what your take was, because I would like to think that part of what I'm pretty good at doing is helping people kind of just stop and look at what they're doing differently. I think that's, if I had a gift, I think, and I actually learned it from my coach, stop and look at where you are with a fresh pair of eyes, because so that's part of my mission. And then to help people realize what they have within them, the value that they have, the uniqueness, their ownliness, if you like, and then to be intentional about what they do. That's why my 365 really stands for my intentions. You're intentional, you give it your all. And with the diagnosis that you had, you were really beautifully intentional about, right, I am going to lean into this. I'm not going to be defeated by this. And I suppose that's kind of who I am and what I do.
Yeah. And so talking to then, you mentioned my take on kind of how you help people look at themselves and things differently. That's definitely what I experienced. It's probably one of the biggest things I took away from working with you, was that how we would every day look at the lessons that we'd learned and what we had experienced in that day and who we had been. And the future self exercises, who were we today, and who are we becoming, and kind of, and the sculpting ourselves from the Michelangelo meditation, like that was awesome. And it really did, like we spoke about before, I came from the Tony Robbins world, and the law of attraction world, very kind of, one very, very motivational and one very, very airy fairy, but never really understanding how I could implement it into my life. And that's what the work that you did helped me to do.
It's really fascinating because, again, it's like that, looking for something outside of ourselves to sort ourselves out.
Always.
I just don't really think that works. So if I could have my time again, like you were saying, for having your time again, I don't think you need to have your time again, by the way. I think you're ready now more than ever to do the greatest work of your life and help people discover who they are. Because beneath all of our life experience and our trauma, I believe, I might be wrong, there is a uniqueness. There is something there that is just you, and you can do something with that, whatever that thing is. And that, I'm like you. I mean, I studied psychology. I didn't really learn very much. I studied sports science. I learned a bit, I suppose, but I was then looking for something outside of myself. So I found Tony Robbins as well, and I found that highly motivational. But it wasn't, I don't really think that, it's just, maybe this is the wrong word, but superficial. It wasn't deep. It wasn't like real to the point where it's mine. And what I have experienced years ago, when I look back working with people who wanted to lose weight, when I saw the people that had lost weight and done the work themselves, I would take a step back from those people because they were so powerful. Because it was theirs. It wasn't me. I didn't go to the gym for them. I didn't eat better for them. They did it. And that was, and I reflect back on that and think, God, that's amazing that you did that. Because we don't change people. We don't, so yeah.
Yeah, the power for everybody to change is within themselves. And that's what, again, working with you highlighted to me, was that the power is within myself. I am the warrior, that I'm going to step in and make all of these changes. It's my responsibility to make these changes if I want to see the life that I want to see. So I think that's I'd be quite interested to hear your take on this, actually, is that people taking responsibility for their own lives. Do you think people could do that more?
Yeah, of course, of course. I think it's a challenge because we live in a world where it's I don't know, it's difficult, it's scary. I think
Mm,
live in a world that is so fast that that we all know that this huge addiction of our phones that kind of
hmm.
stops us being with ourselves. The digital addiction. Um, it's a great question because when I think about taking responsibility, well, what's the alternative? Is there within people a knowing that they're not doing it? I don't know. I literally I
Mm,
haven't figured this all out. I'm
yeah.
still in a place of deep learning, but I know that I feel I had this conversation with someone the other day about they're being pulled to something, and they
Mm,
know they're being pulled to something, and I want to help them be pulled to it more so
yeah.
that to support someone. I think that's a key, isn't it? I think it's such an important aspect of supporting someone. If that's it, okay, so this is a
Yeah.
long-winded question. If you
It's
don't
great.
have support around you in taking responsibility, I think it's very, very difficult. And when I think of the people who had the biggest impact on my life, they were the type of people they were. I had a coach for 16 years. I think once in 16 years, he told me what to do.
Mm.
I've got someone I've been working with for a while now. He's only recently started telling me, but for over a year, he never told me what to do.
Hmm.
And Anna, my wife, she never she never told me what to do. And I personally think that if you've got the right people around you, anything's possible.
Hmm.
If you haven't got the right people around you, I think it's very difficult to take responsibility.
So
What do
how
you
do
think?
you,
What do you think?
I think that I think that we need to take responsibility for our own lives. I also think we take responsibility for the people we have in our lives. And I do think you're right in that we need to have people in our lives that support us fully. Um,
Mm,
and we're not always born into that, unfortunately. And so we have to choose those people. And with that comes great responsibility. And so I think that we
mm.
need to be clear on our values and I guess what we want from life so that we can attract people who are going to support us.
Well,
But
that's what I mean. When you talk about the Mandela effect, I wonder how much of that is about having the frequency of the energetic frequency of how can I help you?
yeah.
When we look at amazing people that have walked this earth, one of them definitely was uh, Martin Luther King, who said,
Hmm.
the most important question is, what can we do for each other? How
Hmm.
can I help you? And think about it, in the UK, we have a minister of loneliness that we've never had more opportunities to connect, yet there's never been more disconnect, suicide, anxiety, depression.
Hmm.
And when my coach was alive, he was involved with World Hunger, which was a big movement of doctors and scientists. And he said when he traveled and they lived with indigenous people, he said, you saw everywhere with indigenous people, they had big circles where people would just sit in a circle and everyone had a place at the circle. There was no one who was excluded. So
Hmm.
everyone was a part of something. And let's face it, if you feel that you're on your own, it's difficult to take responsibility. Why bother? Why
Hmm.
our environments make a big difference.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's powerful stuff.
It is powerful stuff. It's really interesting because one of the closing questions that I was pondering asking was, what do you think humanity needs to focus on in order to improve their lives and the lives of those around them?
It's just inclusion. I've
Mm.
learned this from someone actually I've been working with. Is just the most amazing lady. Her name is Mandy Jane Lace. She spends most of her time in a wheelchair and she's dedicated her life to inclusion. And in fact, I was also doing some work in Stroud. I interviewed someone else who it's called the Long Table, and it's this place
Okay.
where people come and you pay for a meal. It's a beautiful place, but if you can't afford it, you get a meal for free. If you
Yeah.
can afford it and you want to pay more, and I said to him, it's all about everyone's got a place at the table.
Mm-hmm.
But then we were talking about, well, who's not at the table and why not?
Mm-hmm.
How do we get them to the table? And that's what society needs, is that we need to include people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I went to the Russell Brand's event, the community thing in
The
and
festival.
yeah.
Oh, I really wanted to go to that. Was it brilliant?
Well, it was brilliant. Yeah, come next year. You
Yeah.
know, um,
Yeah.
yeah, Wim Hof was there, and he was there. And I mean, I'd never really warmed to Russell, but I've warmed to him more.
Yeah.
Only because I knew some stories about him, which probably weren't even true anyway. Because often it's
Yeah.
very easy to hear what other people have to say, and everyone's got
Mm-hmm.
a past, and nobody's perfect. But I really like what he said about the reality is that the world is breaking down, and things like governments, institutions, they're breaking down because they don't work.
Mm-mm.
And so it's like there's a new world order. And if the world order isn't about how can we help and support each other, then we're going to have a lot more problems. Otherwise, divide and conquer has always had a place. Survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
Well, maybe in the future, it won't be the survival of the fittest. It will be the survival of the people who want to help their fellow human being,
Yeah. And I think on a deeper level, so I know Russell Brand's quite spiritual, and I mean, we talk about Russell Brand. He's the perfect example of a transformation. And actually, don't tell anybody, but I named my cat after him, so my cat's called Russell.
Nice.
This was years ago, before
Yeah.
he was a profound leader on the spiritual scene. But
Yeah.
we have definitely come from a time of this survival of the fittest, built by our ego and this need to survive and
Yeah.
come out on top, which is just a program, isn't it? And then I think we are moving into more of a time of connection and open-heartedness and love, and that's what's going to help people succeed and see massive change in the world, rather than this separation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's why your work is so important and my work is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's a challenge, to maybe believe in who you are and what you do, and maybe that you haven't been doing it very long. It's like, look, those sorts of thought processes are just outdated and not necessary, because when you lead from the heart and you share that space with people, that's what makes a difference. It's not
Mm-hmm.
what you know and what you've done. It's like, where are you coming from?
Mm-hmm.
You're obviously coming from a space of discovering who you are, that exploration. Because I think when people really, I mean, it's hard. It's like the journey within is a difficult one, because what I remember with my coach, I used to feel really uncomfortable in his presence sometimes, because he was so comfortable with who he was.
Yeah.
I could see myself in his reflection. I didn't like aspects of myself. I didn't like my anxiety, my always trying to be in the future rather than just being where I was. But beneath, all he was trying to do was help me be myself, because he sees the gifts that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, I might be wrong, but I think pretty much everyone I've ever met in my entire life, they all have unique gifts
Mm-hmm.
that they would enjoy. That would they make humanity better? I don't know, but I would have thought in most cases, yeah, because it's something creative, something making, something building.
Yeah, definitely. How did you feel when you see those gifts in other people and they don't see them and they don't pursue them?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's difficult, because when someone tells me what they want, I in my mind, I can see that, so let's do it. But then if people don't see it, or if I see it, then they must see it. But it's the work to overcome themselves in many cases to do that, because it often means there's some form of resistance or something difficult or challenging that's going to have to be done along the way. And again, as we talk about this, again, I realize just how important it is to have good people around you. Is as you start figuring stuff out for yourself, that you've got someone who's there to help you figure it out, because most of what we're trying to figure out is happening in our bodies, and we can't always see that.
No. No, and it's helpful to have other people reflecting that back to us and, like you say, supporting us. So how can we find these people?
I think there's a great question. I think it's being open to it, first of all. I don't know whether you've found that in your life, that the older you get, even though you're still very young, that you attract people. I mean, is it the law of manifestation? I don't know what it is, but I think I have found that when I'm open to something, that it tends to come to me. It might not come straight away. Like yes, I want a water system in my house for clean water, and I've had this bottled water company, and I've been asking for that, and I met someone yesterday who that's exactly what they do. So
amazing.
Yeah, it's like, but that means having faith. That means believing in something beyond just you, that there's something out there that is supporting you. And that's a big thing for a lot of people.
I know. Do you believe there is?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. That binds all of us together, that we're all, people talk about 6 degrees or 5 degrees of separation. It's like there is no separation. We're human beings. So there is commonality in all of that. There is something else at work, but I don't feel the need to explain that to people. I know a lot of people do, and they want to explain it for people to understand, but I don't feel the need to try and explain that to people. I could, and I'd try and explain it to you, and you'd try and explain it to me, but does it do it justice? Does it? Because I'm only telling you what I think, and I want you to find your way. So it's yours. It's not mine. But yeah, I mean, it's the greatest work, right? It's to discover what you have. Life is a discovery, is it not? What is life? I don't know. What do you think life is?
I think that life is a discovery. I think that we're here to discover who we are in our very core, and discover more about the universe that we're playing in. I think we take life so seriously. I have for years. When I was on your program, I was diagnosed with chronic stress at the age of 30. And then 2 weeks later, I was diagnosed with cancer. I was on one of your calls and had to log off because I had an anxiety attack. That's not normal. That's not normal behavior. We take life so seriously. And to a certain extent, I still do, because the challenges don't stop, and the programming is still there that kind of keep you in that fear mode. But I think that we're here to play in the universe, and it's like a scavenger hunt. And I actually, more and more, I'm realizing that I really wish people would see life more as a game, and how we can, what we can learn next, what we can discover. We don't have to have one career for our entire lives. We don't have to have one mission or one purpose, or, who said that you can't turn your hobby into your main source of income? We can do so much in this world, but we are, in some ways, we're so limited. So I think it is to discover who we are and just play and have fun and stop taking it so seriously.
I like that. When you were talking about playing in the universe, it's like, well, the universe is so expansive and so big, so why not play big in that space? Or at least, just see opportunities. I'm someone who we both like, and Dr. Joe Dispenza, when he talks about the only thing that exists in the universe is space. That's it. It's just space. And there's a planet there, but how much space is there around that? It's just infinite. And I like the idea of playing. In fact, the origins of Snakes and Ladders is about the playing of life, and knowing that if you do certain things, you go up. And that's why the game was invented. It was invented in India to teach children about, doing the right thing. But it was a game. And I think, again, I've got a photograph here of this was my coach Raphael, who I worked with for 16 years of my life.
I've heard a lot about him. I've never seen a photo.
Yeah, you've heard me say, I'm sure, when he asked me what the nature of the mind is, and I can't remember what I said. He kind of laughed, and he said, nature of your mind is your mind plays tricks on you. So in Hinduism, they call it Maya. In Buddhism, they call it dukkha. It's the illusions that the mind creates. And then he said, how do you conquer the mind? And again, I can't remember what I said. He said that you conquer your mind by humor. You know, if you can't find humor in what you're thinking, then you'll just be a victim to what you're thinking. If you can't step back from what you're thinking, I mean, people have spoken about that for thousands of years, to know thyself, to just realize that that's all. There's always going to be something going on, but can you observe what's going on and not be critical of it?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what a great thing to be able to do in life. You know, to take go on.
Well, no, I was going to say, and even, you know, I've done some pretty intensive meditation training over the last 12 months, and meditation was one of the biggest supports in my healing. But it is still difficult to sit there and observe the mind and then take it throughout the day. It's one of the most challenging things, but rewarding.
Why? What's rewarding about it?
Because you realize the Maya. You realize that the matrix, you know, the matrix is a huge buzzword at the moment, and really all and I think people think that this matrix is the government or whatever, and it's just our mind. It's just the mind. And I think when you can observe the thoughts, the patterns, the beliefs, and understand that it's not real, that's really rewarding and gives and helps you reclaim some of that power.
I have a little a pod out there, and it's a poster of the Matrix with those two pills, you know.
I saw it in your gym.
I
saw it on Instagram.
Just looking, you know, and just thinking which one. But I choose to take the pill of how can I give, how can I serve, how can I love, how. Yeah, and that's all I want to do. I just want to give love to people. That's what I want to do. But it also sounds like why? Because I don't see the point of life if that's not what I'm giving. I don't see the point of everyone who's poured into me in my life, who's loved me, and a lot of those people aren't here anymore. What's the point of my life if I'm not going to be loving? But I realized part of that challenge for myself is to love myself and to take care of myself, rather than looking for validation and looking for acceptance, where it's all just nonsense. I did that for years, and it almost killed me. And I think it's incredibly unhealthy. Well, it was for me.
Well, I think seeking validation outside of ourselves is extreme. I mean, that's what made me extremely ill. With the stress, I realized I was chasing goals that weren't related to they weren't for my highest good. They were because I wanted to prove that I was worthy. And I see so many people go through that. So what was your experience with, how did you overcome this seeking validation?
Well, because I was quite famous for quite a long period of time, I couldn't help but be recognized. You know, I'd probably go down the street, and if I saw 50 people, one of those people would probably know who I was because they'd seen me on television. So, and then you
sign autographs.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
I signed my hat.
not. I don't think I signed anyone's hat, but you know, it was bizarre because I kind of thought I wanted it, but also just in working with people, and I don't know, just realizing when you get it, it didn't actually make any difference. It's so superficial when someone tells you you're great, or you're on TV. So what? So what does that actually mean? You know, and then one of my friends who's been living with me recently, he's just off in China now, Ronnie O'Sullivan, you know, 7-time snooker world champion. He's a very humble person, and he doesn't crave the limelight. And everywhere he goes, pretty much everywhere, he must be one of the most famous people on earth. Literally, if you had a list of the top 1,000 people, he's probably in that list, because obviously some parts of the world, no one's got a clue who he is, but there are other parts of the world, people just feel they own him and they want a piece of him. And often doesn't have that to give. That, I mean, what a terrible situation that is when you're spent, you're exhausted, and you're trying to, people want something that you haven't even got. So I just found it to be, I don't know whether it's just come with age. It's just, who cares what you think about me? It's not really that important. All that's important is, what do you think about you? You know?
And there's so a lot of work that I do is shadow work, so understanding that the world's a mirror, and we have the golden shadow. And so in India there's a kind of nice story, I don't know the word for it, where the gurus hold the gold for the disciples. So the disciples will go up to the guru and say, can you hold my gold for me? And then the guru will give it them back when they're ready for it. But the gold is just I guess it's the God in them. It's the oneness, the love. And what a lot of people do with, people they admire and a lot of famous people, we place our gold in them. We place our best qualities, we see them in them, but nobody understands really that that's just a reflection of them.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I'm quite wary of saying this, but it's just my belief that when you see the separation that a lot of people have to a certain person, right? There's a certain person in the world that people revere, who was obviously a very enlightened person, like Buddha, like Muhammad, like Moses, like lots of people who are enlightened. But to see that person as someone special and different to you, I have a problem with that separation. I respect when other people, I see people who have such strong belief, who believe that to be true. I'm talking about Jesus. Jesus is the Son of God. Well, am I not the Son of God? What's wrong with me? Not wrong with me. And I'm sure a Christian would look at that in a different way to me. But this separation, there is no separation. I am God. You are God. I can understand how some people say, no, that's not the case. I'll be some people that will listen to this and say, no, I'm right and you're wrong. Excuse me? Hello? There's a right and a wrong here. My right is your left. And what a great way when you can work. And if that's what someone believes, I'm not going to try and, that's why I'm very cautious about talking about this stuff, because I don't want to be right. I don't. I don't. It's really cathartic to talk about it, because I don't. I want you to own your space, your greatness. That's what I want. But that might not be for you. You might want someone to tell you. You might, I'm not your man.
That's so interesting. And maybe this is why I gravitated to working towards you, because that is what gravitated towards working with you, because that is what I picked up. And even my meditation teacher, who is referred to as guru, but he explicitly says, no, you are your own guru. It is not me. I am not the answer. I can tell you the stories and I can teach you the thing, but the answers are in you.
I think, again, I was in an interview yesterday and someone was asking about all the people that I've worked with and stuff, which is as if I'm I don't know, I'm just me. I'm just me.
All hail Pete Cohen.
Can you imagine that? Have you seen The Life of Brian? When they're all following him around. I don't think, again, I don't know. It's just my interpretation. I don't think Jesus wanted people to follow him. I don't think a Buddha apparently used to run away when people used to follow him. Stop following me. Do people need people to follow? I don't know. Probably, maybe for a bit, good people to follow. I don't know. Again, I don't know. I think maybe people around us who, maybe some people do take the lead in certain areas to encourage you to take the lead.
And I think that's it. I think that a lot of what these leaders, teachers, gurus, gods can do is just highlight love, really, is
Yeah.
and that oneness. And I mean, in some of the kind of reading and learning that I'm doing at the minute, is it's just they are the symbol of consciousness, and that is what we are. They're just a symbol.
So it's interesting as I'm talking to you, because I just see in my mind, I see something, but that might not be what you see. I see you with a practice supporting people in their growth. As a coach, as a therapist, I see you have a thriving practice where you love what you do. Now, I see that. I'm curious, is that what you see?
It's what I try to see every day. Yeah. It's what I align my mind with every day, because that is ultimately what on one level, I know that's what I'm here to do. Probably deeper down in my heart, I know that that's what I'm here to do. I know I have a lot to offer in that. And then the human level is that there is a fear there that, what if I can't help people? I think it's a bit of a bit of a kind of limiting.
Yeah, but I think ultimately it's funny, isn't it? Because you don't help people. People help themselves. You're in the space, and you open the space for them. And I often have that. I coach people, and I was doing it the other day. I was aware that I was questioning myself. But I've come to a space in my life where I'm so aware of that that I don't really pay too much attention, because otherwise I used to do that on stage a lot. I used to do that when I was coaching groups, in the groups that you're in, when you've got people on Zoom. I don't really like, it's very difficult when you've got lots of different people. I would rather swipe to the left and just talk to the camera, thinking just talking to one person, feeling like, oh, I'm not a fraud, but what you've done so well is you've decided to get to know yourself, and appreciate yourself. And I think what you've done is incredible. I think, I don't know. I mean, I'd love to talk to you about how you dealt with your prognosis or your diagnosis. Because I haven't talked to you for a long time about that.
Yeah, a long time. How did I deal with it? In the only way I knew how, and with fighting spirit. I cracked open a new part of myself when I was given that diagnosis. I accessed a new level of power, and I was terrified. And the night I was diagnosed, I did get heavily drunk because I didn't know how to cope.
Yeah.
But then moving after that, I completely changed my lifestyle. I cut out alcohol and sugar and went mostly vegan until I started chemotherapy, and I could barely stomach anything. But that I dealt with it by understanding that I have been given, this is actually my second chance at life. It's not if I heal, I get another chance. This is my second chance. This is the smack on the face to say, Rosanna, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? And that is and it was a massive turnaround for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, what a great way of looking at it, because you did have a second chance. My wife almost had a third chance. I mean, well, she did really for a year, but she's not here anymore. But you are, and I am. So what are we going to do about it?
Absolutely. I just wrote a blog post, and Hannah as well. Hannah was a huge inspiration to me going through.
Why was she? I mean, you got to speak to her. See,
we had a few chats, and Do you know what inspired me so much was her lovingness. And
Yeah.
she didn't know me from Adam. And she just
Th-
opened her heart to me.
She did know you. She was one of those people that could see people. It didn't take her very. She was amazing at really getting a sense of who someone was, and she saw
Mm-hmm.
your work, and she
Yeah.
could just tell. She knew. I think she knew who you were.
Yeah. And
Um,
and
yeah.
I get that sense because she is kind, and just I felt so supported, even though I mean I still haven't met you in person. Oh no, I have once, but
Where?
Kensington
Oh yeah. Yeah. We
over a
did.
year ago. Yeah, one of the clubhouse meetups, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I never got to meet Hannah in person, but I knew the warmth and the kindness and the authenticity in her.
Yeah.
And talking to her, it felt like I'd known her for years.
Yeah.
Just one of those people.
Well,
So
you were both also creators.
yeah,
You would create. I remember seeing your designs and the things. My nieces, they have what you made for them. They have a
yeah,
piece of you. They have a piece of my mum. They have a piece of Hannah. It's funny
yeah,
because I just start thinking about that. I was thinking, what did Rosanna make? Because I know she made something.
yeah.
I'm actually going to speak to my nieces. I've become a lot closer to them since Hannah passed away because obviously I
Wow.
spent more time with them. But she was like you. She was a creator. She'd come up with
Mhm.
ideas and she would make these incredible quilts. And
Yeah.
um,
Some fantastic designs. To be honest, I don't know how she had the patience.
well, actually, I'm going to take you indoors if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, of course. So you're waiting for a delivery of a massive stop sign, and I asked you what crazy projects you are undertaking at the moment, because in the time that I've known you, you've started some incredible kind of incentives for people to come and work with you, some cool kind of like the start one, stop one was a huge thing where you start a good habit, stop a bad habit. Obviously, the group coaching that I was a part of. And I asked you what crazy project you are working on at the minute, and you said becoming my own best friend.
Yeah, that's my biggest project. This has been such a life-changing event. What's happened with my wife passing away just a few months ago, excuse me, that I'm not hungry like I was before. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not like, what are we doing? It's like, well, I don't know. What are we doing? I'm writing a book, which I started before, when Hannah made another incredible recovery.
Mm,
I started writing a book called How to Create Your Fantastic Future. And then she got really ill again, and that went on hold. And then I went back to it and I thought, well, I still want to do something with this. So I've been changing it, and I've got a
mm-hmm.
publisher, and it's going to be called, because Hannah's motto was just get on with it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be called Just Get On With It, How to Create Your Fantastic Future. So I want to do that. I want to travel a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I I'm still discovering parts of myself, that, and I'm becoming my own best friend. So
Yeah,
how do you do that? Well, I'm living on my own. I've got a big house. I'm kind of making it my own. I'm not in a hurry,
yeah,
really discovering myself. So that's a really long-winded answer. I still have my 30-day Kickstart program that
yeah,
anybody can do. It's free. Um, yeah. What
yeah,
about
yeah.
you? What are you up to?
What am I up to? Well, this podcast is one of my biggest passions, because these conversations just light something in me. They inspire me so much, and obviously so many other people who listen. And I'm becoming my own best friend as well, because I rejected so much of myself for so long, and I've always put so much of my focus onto achieving goals.
Please bear with us for this 4-second interval while Pete unboxes his brand new neon stop sign.
But let me ask you while I'm doing this, why do you think it's important to stop?
Well, I learned that the hard way. It is,
Ah,
I think if we don't stop, then we don't appreciate where we've been. Oh, that's cool. We don't appreciate who we are.
Why do you think it takes such a horrible thing to happen in order for us to stop and really appreciate? Because I just think that I want to help people consciously create stop moments, like every day. Just take a time just to stop before you start. Yeah. So why do you think do you consciously create stop moments?
I have consciously created a morning and evening routine where I connect to myself. But while we're having this conversation, I sort of think I don't give myself enough stop moments throughout the day, and we pay for that.
Why do we pay for that?
Because that's when stress starts to come in.
Oh, that's big. That's big. I didn't think you were going to say that. I thought you were going to say something else.
What did you think I was going to say?
I don't know, but I just think that's so profound what you just said, because you're right. Stress comes in. I think it does. Well, I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And
as we know, stress is the biggest contributor to physical illness. Yeah,
well, there's a big thing in it, that big sign in terms of, that word around distress, disease. Mm-hmm. If you're at stress. Yeah, I mean, it's just so obvious. I remember when I was studying physiology and they talked about stress and heart disease, and people still don't make that link until, they have a heart attack. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're not far off from the actual looks like from actually lighting this thing up. So bear with. This thing is unreal.
So have you got this then to remind you to stop?
Yes. And also I want to take this when I'm doing some work. It can be, hang on a second. I'm going to show you. You ready for this?
Yep. Born ready.
I know. You're definitely born ready. Right. Okay. Can you see the sign?
Oh, God, that's huge.
It is. I didn't realize it was going to be that big, but there you go.
Did you not measure it?
No, I would never measure anything like that, because I'm just
do.
I should have. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, that's brilliant. So you're gonna use that in your.
Hi, I'm Pete Cohen. Let's all just stop.
Do you know what? That's amazing, because that has not been your message for a long time.
No, it's been the opposite. Let's go. Where are we going? I don't know.
Didn't you have a stop sign, like the lollipop lady sign?
Yeah, I've still got that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's honestly, I'm really glad that you were a part of just seeing that, because I don't know, it's symbolic. Mm-hmm. The power of stopping is, you can't appreciate if you can't. I'm trying to find out, is it possible to appreciate your life if you don't stop?
Also, have you appreciated your life in your busiest times?
No.
Well, there's your answer.
Yeah, there you go. You see, I probably have to pay you for that, don't I? For that profound bit of advice that you gave me. I think about, like, if I exercise, like this morning, I really didn't feel like exercising, right? Yeah. But it's after I do it, there's a stop moment. It's like after you meditate, after you just being with people and you just stop. That's when people get you. They really get you. Mm-hmm. I can't believe how beautiful it is. I can't wait to contact my friend, Professor Ray Sylvester, Dr. Sylvester, who massively helped me through Hannah being ill, speaking to him every day, and he will just love that because he inspired me to stop.
What do you think would have happened if you didn't stop?
I'd be dead. Yeah, I definitely would be dead. Yeah, because I burnt out in my 20s. I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue. I was diagnosed with ME. All I knew was one speed, which is very fast. Because I'm blessed with a natural energy of like a childlike excitement and enthusiasm, but I never knew how to manage that. So, you know.
So that's interesting because okay, I might be wrong here, because I don't know an awful lot about it, but could that be linked to ADHD?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that, I mean, I know nothing about ADHD, but I know that it's diagnosed more and more and more. But what if it is a blessing?
Yeah. Well,
of a childlike energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Like let's label him. It would have been so easy to label me that. There's no question about it. It's like, well, don't label me.
No.
Just support me in who I am. And you know, that's the system of you have to be a certain way. It's dangerous. And it's like label someone with a diagnosis. Like, you've got this, it means this. And I understand that I'm sure it has a place, but why should I believe that? When I said to my coach about Hannah, you know, in 2011, you know, you've heard that story. I said she's been told she's got 18 months, and he just went, so what? You know, people defy the odds all the time. You know,
and so she did.
She most definitely. I mean, she defied the odds. I saw a video of her the other day. I mean, I saw her when she was dying, and I saw her come alive. And I saw the same thing again when she got re-diagnosed and we went to Germany. I saw her come alive. I mean, she was physically there at that point, not being able to walk, not being able to think. I saw her come alive again. We were that close to finding, you know, beating the odds twice. And then unfortunately, she got COVID in December. And that really seemed to stop this treatment that she was on from working. And it was devastating. It was absolutely horrendous. But it's not going to define me. It's going to, what's the opposite when something defines you? It's going to inspire me. It is inspiring.
Yeah. And I think we've come full circle, because this is where we get to take responsibility for our lives, and not let a diagnosis, not let a label define you and control how you live your life.
And I you know, when people say there's always someone worse off than you, I kind of get that, because I have seen people that, you know, when Hannah was in the hospice, there was probably 7 or 8 people that died. There was a lady there who had 2 really young children. They don't have a mum now. And you think, oh, that must be so difficult for them. And of course, it's difficult without Hannah. But I had Hannah for 13 years, you know. We had an amazing life. I wish I'd made more of the time that we had, but I didn't. I lived a lot in fear, I think, during that time. But the fact is, Rosanna, I have this time, you know, with a big stop sign in the background.
Yeah. Oh, Pete, this conversation's been amazing. My heart is just swelling. I'm just so thrilled that we've had this moment to catch up.
Yeah, well, I when this comes out, you must tell me, and then we should go live about it, so that people that follow me can find out about you, because people need you. They need, I'd say they need the person that you have become, because the person that you have become is the mirror or the energy, the Mandela that people need. It's that vibration, because everything about you is possibility, you know, it's transformation.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. And that is, we'll go live when it comes out, a couple of weeks. Any parting advice for our listeners, humans of the world?
just put a smile on your face and just notice what happens when you do that, because everything changes, you know. When people say it's the simple things which make the biggest difference, I really think it is the simple things.
Yeah.
It's the simple thing to stop. I'm not saying it's easy to do. I'm not saying that, but it's bloody simple. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity today, especially for the unboxing.
The unboxing, the big moment of the stop sign. I will link, for everybody listening, I will link how you can connect with Pete all in the description below, and I will link the Kickstart 30-day Kickstart, because that's an incredible program for anybody who wants to start making some changes in their life. So anything else you'd like to share?
No, just thank you again.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of The Mandala Effect. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on your favourite podcast platform. I greatly appreciate your ongoing support, and the podcast wouldn't be where it is today without you, so thank you. Don't forget to share this podcast with your friends and family, and let's continue spreading the mandala effect of magic and infinite possibilities. See you next week.